Hello, Sasha. Mm.
Hi, thank you for having me here.
I am so excited to have you here and to have this right discussion with you about body love. And I know that you do more than that, though. So could you just share with us really quickly about what you do? And then we can get right into this juicy subject.
Thank you. Yeah. So I work a lot with empowerment in all of its colors. I work with sexual empowerment, self-love as empowerment, understanding and loving our psyche and dealing with our emotions and healing trauma. And for me, all of those are parts of empowerment because we're holistic beings. We have so much inside of us that all of those parts are also very relevant to who we are. So I really believe that we should have a very full approach, and I make sure to work with all of those parts. So I start with the body, the vulva, our sexuality, but I always end up connecting to the whole of who we are, our spirit, our emotions, our intellect and psyche, and of course our body.
Mm. Yes. Oh, I love, love, love what you do. So, Sasha, I first was really called to you because we were doing the same training. And when I started seeing you on the Facebook group and in on our Zoom calls, our group Zoom calls that we had, and I just so admire your raw vulnerability, your deep truth. And you are from Mexico. You live in Mexico City. Is that correct?
Thank you so much, first of all. And yeah, I live right now in Merida. I am from Mexico City, but right now I moved to the jungle. I am
Mm.
just like you, a jungle woman right now, and I moved to Merida, which is near Cancun and all of that Maya area.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Okay. So I am really excited to drop in with you about body love today. Um, I I am so intrigued and really attracted to how you show up and what you share, especially on social media, and I'm sure in the work that you do with women. So I love that you are this vivacious Latino woman, and you are fully what I experience in what you share is that you are fully in love with who you are. And I think that's such a deep journey for us women and men, really to go on because I, as I see it, I think most of human beings spend a lot of time kind of at war with our bodies and the perceptions that we have of ourselves. I grew up in Hawaii as a 6'1" white girl. It wasn't very fun to be in my body. I didn't really like this beautiful vehicle that I appreciate now. I didn't like it. I felt very awkward and gawky, and I stood out like a sore thumb, and men were always intimidated by my height. And I yeah, super super skinny. I had no boobs. I just felt this awkwardness. So it took me a long time to kind of grow into and appreciate and go on the deep journey that I think it is required to to really loving and appreciating our bodies, especially when we have so much outside pressure that we think we have to kind of live up to, or we're trying to impress men or women or whatever those aspects are. So I would love to hear a little bit about your journey and your body and what that's been like for you.
Thank you. Well, first of all, you're such a gorgeous woman, and I just really want to put that out. I remember seeing you the first time, and I was like, wow, blown away by your beauty and your height and your presence. And hearing you uh, makes me feel how after all of our journeys are so similar but we're always looking at this different way of being as a way of being that it's better than ours, right? Like the grass is greener on the other side. And how after all the journey is pretty much the same for all of us. And I went through that journey myself. I remember how difficult it was to be a mestizo woman that had Lebanese roots in Mexico, because the way in which I look is different from the way in which many other Mexican women look. My skin is uh, different. It's not precisely whiter, but it's kind of, my husband would say that it's kind of like Mediterranean because of the like an olive, he would say. And there is this sense of difference, right? Like being different from the space in which I am. And that made me feel out of place and uncomfortable for a very a long time. And then um, my very literal mind would play a trick on me, in which when my mom would say that I had big hips, in my brain that would turn as being like this big. Like I thought that I was like incapable of, and you know, the 90s, when you couldn't really find skinny jeans, and big pants would be like huge. So that was a struggle to be young in my body, feeling different from the people around me was a struggle. And I would receive the message of either a lot of love and appreciation or a lot of hate and disgust. And I would receive them both at the same time. Like somebody would tell me how beautiful I was, and somebody would tell me how horrible and awful and fat, and you know, like with a lot of anger, like if they were entitled to have an opinion on my body, and as if they were entitled to love it or hate it. And for whatever reason, there is this understanding that they can show up their anger, and that we should take it, right? Like we should be changing whatever the thing people consider we should be changing. And that's always a trap, because no matter what we do, we're never going to please them enough, right? No matter if it's curly hair, they're going to tell us to make it straight. If it's dark hair, they're going to tell us to turn it blonde. If you have blonde hair, they are going to tell you to, like, there is always a trap. We're never going to be enough for this game in which the female body specifically is never enough. And realizing this was a life changing experience for me, because I realized that no matter how much I tried and no matter how much I changed, I would never be liked by the people that dislike me, and I would never be accepted by them. And I could just start by stop trying and start being in my body at peace with who I was, because otherwise I would live in a war to be liked by a bunch of people that don't really like me anyway. Instead of looking at the people that actually enjoy my presence, my company, just my existence. And I had two very important turning points in that. One was being a mom. When my daughter was born, my daughter is my second child. First I had a son, and it was very difficult for me because I got so much hate from my own partner, from my own, like I got comments around my body and how much weight I had gained, and it was very hard. But then when my daughter was born, she was born 1 month before she was due, and her tights, her beautiful tights that were as big as mine, were still not full. It was like if her suit of flesh was still to be filled. Her tights were skinny, yet she already had the shape of big tights, like mine. And then it hit me. No matter how much weight I lose, I will always have those kind of tights. And looking at her with so much love, and seeing how perfect she was, seeing how beautiful she was, how radiant, how perfect her body form was, it hit me, and I said, those are my legs. They are as beautiful as hers. And I would never tell her that she needed to change. I will always tell her how beautiful her legs are. Why then will I try to keep changing my legs? And that was the first time that it really struck me. And the other time was our training, right? Like learning to please my body was like, wow, my body is capable of so much pleasure just as it is. But the very first time was just seeing my daughter and seeing how perfect she was and understanding that I didn't want her to change.
Oh, Sasha, you're like you're bringing some tears to my eyes. That's like a really beautiful story. And I met you in person in Palm Springs, I think. And your presence is so beautiful. I was so grateful to like hug you and see you and feel you. And so I'm so glad that you have gone on this journey and that you are shining this light. And yeah, I mean, you know, one of these big hurdles, I think, for a lot of women is having children and how our bodies change. So I love that you got to see the beauty in that through your child, through your infant, and that have that appreciation and that acceptance for your own body. That's really beautiful. For a lot of women, I know that, you know, when their bodies go through those changes and either there's weight gain or the breast sag or the stretch marks or whatever the things are, that that can be another huge hurdle for a lot of women. Definitely, that's really hard. And the journey of learning to love and self pleasure and understand and fully embrace our bodies has been such a beautiful gift to me on my journey. And I know to, you know, all those women that we were in that course with. What a celebration.
I went through that in my first birth, my son. Um, it was such a different story because I went through that change. I
Yeah.
went through feeling rejected by my husband. I remember that I was in the hospital and suddenly he looked at my boobs and he didn't think about that. He was young and stupid, and I forgive him for that. But his comment just came like a dagger in my stomach because he said, "Your boobs are like two socks with marbles," and I was like, "Oh my god." I felt like I shrank and I felt insignificant and ugly because he was mocking them. Like he didn't even think about that. And like that, a lot of comments, like because I really gained a lot of weight, like not just the weight, I kind of my whole body shifted. My body got swollen and it just shifted.
Yeah.
And I remember the comments of disgust. I remember that he was looking for another person back then that he would write to his therapist saying things that were really hurtful about me. And we worked through that, but those years were so painful because I was not only feeling the change in my body, but feeling like I was lost. The person that I was not there anymore. I couldn't go out to the store to buy, like anything because I had to carry with my little son everywhere, and I couldn't just focus on myself, and I couldn't just be with myself. I had to be with my son first, and that was really challenging. I really feel like I had both experiences. The very challenging one, which of course gave me the best son in the world. He's an amazing person, but it was challenging. It was difficult because I was alone and I was unprepared, and my body went through many changes and I didn't know, and I didn't have the support of a community, like a wise community. And that makes such a difference in the way in which we are capable of going through that very difficult initiation.
Yeah. So that leads me into like wanting to talk about that comparison place that we often get ourselves into, especially when we are getting, um, different opinions or views about our body from outside people, that we can often get into this, being different and looking different and feeling different and that not being okay. And how powerful it is. And I think that this is a changing and shifting place that I hope that we're going. I feel this in my life, in my community, of really starting to celebrate each other in all of our different shapes and sizes and colors, like really celebrating each other and admiring that and lifting each other up. And in doing that, being able to totally appreciate our own unique size, shape, colors, and it's changing as they change, because yes, you have adolescence, we puberty, and then we come into, if we have children, into that journey, and our body's going through that. I have 2 children as well, and then we start to age and go through that journey. So it's never a constant. I mean, it's a constant change. It's never just staying as it is. So I think it's just such a journey for us to do that. And I really loved being in the group of women that we were in, and how we just learned to up level that celebration of ourselves and each other. So how do you feel like that has served you in your journey? And do you have a community now that does that?
Yes, that totally changes the game. I really feel like, first of all, women are particularly turned against one another, because we're afraid of living, of existing in the whole meaning of what existing as a woman is. We are afraid of occupying a space in the world. We're afraid of another woman competing against us. We're afraid of men choosing us or not, because we're afraid of attracting the wrong kind of men, but we really want to attract certain men. And then aging, and then gaining more weight, and then it's fear. We are used to living in fear, and it has a reason. It was designed to be that way. We were meant to be in community, to be supporting one another. And the fact that patriarchal systems started turning one against the other is not random. It's the way in which we stay disempowered, because a woman can really tear another woman apart. A woman can really show her how insignificant, how ugly, how, like we can really be mean. That happens a lot in high school. That's one of the hardest initiations for women, when we enter high school, and how mean girls can be to one another. And then when you see what happens when women actually love and support one another, how far we get. But how we need to heal sisterhood wounds to get there, how we need to reconnect to get there, how much is triggered by those spaces, but how far it takes us when we get to that point, how healing it is for one and therefore to another, how when we get to that point of supporting one another, we don't really need the validation of anybody else. It suddenly becomes the most empowering experience that we can have. That makes me understand why it is so terrifying for our culture to have women supporting one another, because really when we start supporting one another, we get places, we get far, we heal, we stop needing the appreciation, validation, support of our partners or men, or just the outside world. It's not that we turn against men, of course. It's just that our connection to them doesn't come from a place of neediness. It starts coming from a place of power, and it feels different, because we are not needing their validation anymore. We're just showing up in the whole presence of the whole existence, the whole brightness of who we are. And that shows, because then the relationships start being different, because we are not craving them and trying to hold on to them. And they feel that because that's such a weight for them as well. So in reality, women empowering women, it's a way in which we also empower men and our connection with them. It's a way in which we start healing the world. It's a way in which we start showing up in the world as who we really are. Because there's nothing as healing as a sister telling you, hey, I see this in you. I see your power. I see your brightness. I see your beauty. I see your leadership. That is the most healing thing that we can have. It's like when we dress up and we're not dressing up for men, we're really dressing up for other women, for our sisters. For that's what happens. We are needing really that support because we are meant to hold one another up. And that really changes the whole dynamic.
Mm. Oh my gosh, so much. I love what you just shared right now. I resonate with that so deeply. And I think that needs to be heard and seen, expect by women and men in every phase of their lives. There is so much power in really seeing each other and supporting each other and learning to fully celebrate our bodies and our beings, as they are. We're not going to change. I mean, yeah, you can change some things if you really want to, but really learning to love and appreciate and embrace, what is here right now. Because as I see it, we are all given these vehicles that our spirits, our souls travel through. And it's a gift. Like our bodies are a gift, and they're a miracle. And when we get too nitpicky about everything and we take all this outside stuff on it, it's hurtful to our bodies, to our minds, to our hearts, to our communities, to the world, really. And it just brings the feminine down, it brings the masculine down in all those ways that you mentioned. So really powerful stuff. Thank you.
And it keeps us away from the present moment. I don't know if you have experienced this, but when you look at pictures of yourself 5, 10 years ago, and you think, wow, I was such a beauty and I didn't know it. Uh-huh. Look at me, I was living my life this way and I had these opportunities and I didn't enjoy it because I was preoccupied about not looking the part and not looking pretty enough and not being, and looking at yourself in pictures and looking at who you were and looking at all the missed opportunities because you were not appreciating who you were is such an eye-opener experience, because that just gives you the chance to change the dynamic right now, right? Because then what's going to happen in 10 years when or in 20 or in 30, when you look at pictures and you think, wow, I was young, beautiful, strong, powerful, and I didn't believe the part because I was preoccupied about some extra pounds that I don't really care about anymore.
So true. So true. And I love what I've seen you doing on your social media, where you're posing and the fullness of your body. You have these different, like, kind of sexy, sensual, and I fucking love it, because to me, there is nothing more beautiful, more powerful than a woman fully embracing herself and not being in fear and showing up in her fullness, in her light. And I just, to me, you really represent that and do that in such a gorgeous way, and give women permission, other women permission to do that themselves, no matter what shape they are. So it's just been absolutely amazing to witness that. How has that felt for you to do that?
Oh, thank you. I think that the thing that we forget about self-love is that it's not linear. It's a wave. Yes. And sometimes we're feeling it fully and we're like, yeah, I'm so hot today. And other times we're not feeling it and we kind of move into that direction purposefully. I sometimes take pictures to make myself feel better about my own body, right? To flirt with myself until I feel better, to connect with that energy again. And I sometimes don't feel it at all. And then the seeds that I planted come and catch up with me. I remember recently a conversation with my son, and I was going through that lower wave. I was feeling low, because sometimes that happens because we have the culture with all these perfect, in quotations, perfect bodies, and with all of these pictures, and I remember that day feeling particularly low, and I was like, you know what, maybe I should lose weight, and I don't know, maybe get a pill or something. And he looked at me and he was like, no, mom, you are going to work out for yourself to feel beautiful, to feel powerful, because that's the idea. I don't want to see you taking a pill, because whenever you have done that in the past, you just hurt yourself and you promise to never do it again. I was like, you're right. So that was the seed that I planted one day, that I was high in self-love, and it catch up with me when I was low in self-love. So I really think that that's the way it works. Like we have to nourish our appreciation when we're feeling full, that our cup is full, that we are feeling so connected to that, to our beauty, to our power, to our essence. So that the times when it's low because we got a bad comment, because we got, whatever happened, because the life because life is full of different experiences, um, we can be nourished and resilient and just go back to those seeds that we planted when were feeling better. So I think that that's the way it works. It works like this beautiful wave. So what I do to try to hold on to the highs of that wave is to fill my feet with diverse bodies, with diverse beauty, with women that have bigger tides because I have big tides, with women that are women of color and are beautiful, with women that are natural and raw and curvy, because that helps me feel and my beauty by looking at their beauty shamelessly. So it's a way in which we keep nourishing one another, so that anytime that we fall into the trap of culture, we can move out of that trap with the support of all of these little things that we planted along the way.
Ah, Sasha, thank you. Like that was so beautifully put. And you're right, it is this wave. And we sometimes we feel it fully, and sometimes we don't. We can kind of get into that pattern or that old kind of paradigm. How have you approached this with your children, with your son? Because it sounds like he's pretty aware to be able to say something so deep to you. How old is he, and how have you approached that? And your daughter too, because that's so important.
Yeah, my son is 17, and he's so I am growing a couple of uh, feminist empowered kids. So I have these conversations a lot with them, with my daughter who is 15 and my son who is 17. I speak to my daughter a lot because I know that she's been going through that wave, right? She has her own challenges. She has vitiligo. She has stuff that I know that might be challenging for a girl, because I know girls, again, we can be very mean to one another. So uh, it's not our nature, but it's the way in which we have been trained to think. It's not the way in which we naturally are. But I I tell her her beauty. I remind her of her beauty. I tell them both because it's an important conversation with both. That weight, it's a circumstance. It's not who we are. We can be beautiful, bigger, smaller, younger, older. That's just what it's happening to us, but it's not that what defines us. It's how we go through life. It's things that happen. Aging happens, weight loss and weight gain happen, wrinkles happen, scars happen. They do not define us. They are just who we experiences that we're going through, and we are so much more than that. And I make sure to remind them that, because I want them to know that in themselves. I want my son to know that he's not his weight. He's so much more than that, and he's going to be whatever he chooses to be, and his weight is just going to be a circumstance. My daughter is not her spots. She's so much more than that. She's the beauty of her dreams, or of her hopes, of her desires, of her mind and her heart. So I make sure that they know that, so that whenever they face the challenge of culture, they have the weapons of their own self-awareness, and I really feel that it's important that that starts from home.
So true. I find my daughter to be a great reminder for me a lot. You know, the minute I go, oh, this is happening, or oh, she's like, mother, like, look at you, like, and they're just such, because they can see us through the filter of really of beauty and love, and giving them those conversations, and like showering them with that awareness and that self-awareness to be able to love themselves, as much as we can. And I love you how you say the trap of culture, or the challenge of culture, because that's what it is a lot. And hopefully, as things shift, culture, as we learn to love ourselves and learn to support and love each other and celebrate each other, culture will shift and change in a better way. But for now,
Exactly.
we have to hold it within ourselves, and then spread that out, as I see it.
We are building culture. We are
Mm.
culture, so we are building it, and we are changing it and shifting it. And in our children, we are planting those seeds, and eventually they are going to be that new culture as well. And I love what you just said about your daughter, reflecting that at you whenever you criticize a part of your body. And I always like to think that I don't want to talk to my body in a way in which I wouldn't want to talk to theirs. I would
Yeah.
never want to hear my daughter speaking about her tights the way in which I sometimes spoke about mine. And that means that I have to show my tights love in front of her, because I have to model that love in front of her so that she starts speaking that way to her own self.
So I love it. Show your thighs love. Yeah, it's true. It is really powerful to be able to show our bodies love, and to be conscious of when we go into negative messages around them. Even internally, even if we're not actually speaking it out loud, if we're like even in our thoughts, so much magic I found in deeply learning to like send loving connection to, especially to the places that we find challenging, that we like want to change in some way, to really like have the experience of like, I'm going to take my belly, the loose skin that's on my belly from having the babies, and I'm just going to like really give gratitude and thanks for my body being able to have babies, and the skin did its thing, but thank you, skin. Or whatever component you struggle with, to be able to do those practices is really changing. Like it's a cause a deep shift in myself and the clients that I work with as well. So yeah, it's a
Yeah.
great reminder. Well,
I love
Sasha.
that. That's so important, because also those parts hold their own memory. I like to think that they are intelligent and that they have their own memories. And when we hold them, we're holding somebody that has gone through the rejection of having its own body turning against it. And all the pain and all the rejection that that body part faces, it needs healing and needs to be contained and supported. And I think that there is so much magic and alchemy in supporting that body part and loving it and grieving with it, the fact that it wasn't what we were expecting, and instead loving it deeply because of what it is, in removing that expectation that wasn't even ours, because as children we didn't think that way of ourselves. So removing that expectation of desirability, that also is a big change. Like we women learn to value ourselves according to how desirable we are, but the moment in which we remove that label and we start just loving the fuck out of ourselves, like really wanting ourselves, just saying, wow, I could do me. Like,
Yes.
I don't care if somebody else could, I could do me. Like, wow, this is a hot mama. That moment, everything changes, and you stop caring about the desirability of that you have upon others, that others might have on you, projected on you.
Oh my gosh. I love it. Yes, yes. Okay, beautiful. I'd love to bring it to a close there. That's such a beautiful place to end, you know, really loving, wanting to do ourselves. It is from a genuine place, like so powerful. Sasha, just to sum up, I'd love for you to share about how you work with women or with people and how they can get in touch with you if people are drawn to what you share.
Thank you. So I have two main ways in which I work with people. One is in my one-on-one coaching, which is a very deep dive into everything, like the body, self-love, the psyche. I really take my clients through a deep alchemical journey. And the second way, it's a membership program that I am opening next month, in which every 2 weeks I am going to be guiding pleasure practices, so that we just connect to pleasure through the jade, breath work, or just Taoist practices to move through energy through our bodies, to connect and expand through our capacity of pleasure. So I am guiding these practices every 2 months in this membership program, so that people just come for their nourishment, for their cup to be filled every other week.
Beautiful. Well, I'll put that information in the comments or in the information below so that people know how to contact you. And thank you so much, Sasha. I really enjoy everything you have shared today. Today has been beautiful and memorable and deeply meaningful. So thank you. Really happy.
Thank you so much for this invitation. It really means a lot to me, and I really appreciate you, and I'm so grateful to you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm gonna stop the recording. There we go.